Hi, my sweet friends. I hope that y'all had a good day yesterday and you were on your best behavior. I have been coming in at night and leaving all of the things for our sub for the next day, so I am seeing what you're accomplishing. I'm also hearing about if anything is going wrong, so please make sure you're on your best behavior. Miss Hogue would much rather be at school with you, but because she's sick, she can't be, so I need you to do what you're supposed to do. So today for science, I will be able to tell you interesting facts about Mount Vernon. So we're going to watch this video.
Today we're going to take a virtual field trip to Mount Vernon. When you click on the link, it will take you to this web page. When you go here, what you do is you click on the circles to be able to explore. So if you want to look at the bullseye window, you would click that circle and it's going to take you to the bullseye window, and then you can read about it. So you can click these circles to join your field trip, and some of them have little arrows for you to go through and look at pictures. And then you can even go inside Mount Vernon to explore more of the passages inside.
Alright, so we are going to click on the virtual field trip and actually get to go to George Washington's Mount Vernon home. So the first thing that we're going to do, it says the west front. Washington designed the west front of the mansion to greet and impress visitors, which is what we're looking at right now, who could see it from a distance as they entered the west gate and approached the house. The mansion's rustic siding created an effect of a stately home made from expensive stone. So we're first going to watch this welcome video.
Good day to you. We are expecting guests. All is ready. All has been prepared. You know, we have a great number of guests visiting at Mount Vernon. We have had one year with 677 overnight guests. Everyone traveling from the northward to the southward, from the southward to the northward, feels compelled to stop. But we enjoy company. There is a fellow who has said we could have millions of visitors. I'm not sure I believe that. I think he's probably dreaming.
The general was right. Millions have come to see his iconic Mount Vernon mansion, just as millions more will. Yet we know not everyone can. So we're pleased to welcome you here to Mount Vernon, the home of George and Martha Washington, virtually. We invite you to explore within to see this home as very few have, through cutting-edge, high-resolution, 360-degree imagery.
Oh no. We all know sometimes technology has a mind of its own.
But even more, expert opinions, detailed histories of the art and the objects within, and videos of people from Washington's world. We're glad to have you here and hope, if the opportunity allows, you'll come and see us in person someday. But until then, enjoy exploring. This remarkable house is an incredible story to tell.
Alright, so we are going to explore around. So if it has a little video button like this, it's a video. If it's a dot, it's a story. And if it's an arrow, you can go into a new room. So let's watch this west front overview video first.
For visitors to Mount Vernon in the 18th century, it's the west front that would have been their first glimpse of the home of the Washingtons. The house originally, much smaller, just the center section, faced toward the river, not to the west. But by the time of Washington's death, the west front really was the front of the house. And the fact that it was originally faced toward the river necessitated that the stair was placed on the west end of the hall. And that is the answer to the question that so many visitors have, which is why, in a time when symmetry is very important in architecture, is the door shifted slightly to the north? It's the location of the stair inside that causes that anomaly in the west front. Despite that, the west front really is a tour de force of Georgian architecture, balanced, laid out, symmetrical windows, as well as the large pediment, with the ox-eye window and the cupola. Now, these two features are normally things that are seen in public buildings, in courthouses, and churches, and things like that. But Washington incorporates them into his private home, really making a statement about his drive to be at the top of Virginia's society. And guests to Mount Vernon in the 18th century would have picked up on these cues and would have understood that Mount Vernon really was an expression of Washington's wealth and his influence and his position in society.
So what they're talking about is how this door is not in the middle of the house. It's more toward the north, because when they built the stairwell, when we go inside, we'll be able to see. So here's the story, The Responsibility of the Women. In 1853, Anne Pamela Cunningham received a moving letter from her mother, Louise Bird Cunningham. The older woman had been traveling on the Potomac River and passed by Mount Vernon in the moonlight. Struck by its appearance and fearing that it would soon be lost to the nation for lack of upkeep, she commented that if the men of the United States would not save the home of its greatest citizen, perhaps it should be the responsibility of the women. Anne Pamela Cunningham challenged first the women of the South and later the women of the entire country to save the home of George Washington. After convincing John Augustine Washington III to sell the property, Cunningham and the organization she had founded, the Mount Vernon Ladies Association of the Union, raised $200,000 to purchase the mansion and 200 acres of land. The association took over operation of the estate in 1860 and has operated Mount Vernon ever since. So now, let's look at this rustication. So, if you look closely at the walls of the Mount Vernon mansion, you'll realize that the exterior is made of wood, not stone. George Washington used a technique called rustication to make his wooden house look like it was made of stone. The effect is achieved by cutting and beveling the wooden-sided boarding. At Mount Vernon, the boards are made of pine at regular intervals to simulate stone blocks, and then applying sand to the paint surface while wet, thus creating a stone-like textured look. So this is actually wood, this isn't stone. In 1796, Washington wrote to his farm manager, James Anderson, with specific instructions on how to proceed with rusticating the mansion. In his letter, Washington referred to having used bleached sand in the past, but he also wanted Anderson to experiment with obtaining the sand by pounding the local sandstone. So, the development of the mansion. George Washington's dwelling began as a 1 1/2 story house built in 1735 by his father Augustine, and received its well-known name during the ownership of George's half-brother Lawrence Washington. George Washington expanded the Mount Vernon mansion as part of his ascent through Virginia society. He raised the 1 1/2 story 1735 house to a full 2 1/2 story building in 1758, installed the elaborate walnut stairs, and added closets, 1-story wings, on the north and south end. He rusticated the wood siding to make it resemble cut stone. Starting in 1777, Washington added the pediment to the west facade, and the famous piazza was also created. This is the pediment, and this is the piazza. In 1783, Washington began construction on the iconic cupola that sits atop the mansion. Okay, I may have missed. Oh God, this is the cupola. In 1785, Washington completed the interior of the new room, and in 1787, he added the Dove of Peace weather vane atop the cupola. So, sizes and dimensions. At 11,028 square feet with 2 1/2 stories and a full cellar, the Mount Vernon mansion dwarfs the majority of houses in the late 18th century Virginia. Most Virginians live in 1 or 2 room houses ranging in size from roughly 200 to 1,200 square feet. These houses could have fit inside the 24 by 31 foot new room. The ceilings of the mansion vary in height, and the average height on the first floor is 10 foot 9 inches, while on the third floor is 7 foot 3 inches. Let's see. Symmetry or something close to it. So Georgian architectural style prized symmetry. So did George Washington, but as his home expanded, Washington faced some difficult challenges. The internal staircase, located to the right of the central door right here, didn't allow Washington to place windows at equal distances from the central door. To improve the sense of symmetry, Washington installed faux second-story windows above the new room addition on the left side of the house. Here is the bullseye window. In 1778, George Washington added an opposing triangular pediment to the west front of the mansion. A complex oval or bullseye window at the center draws the eye upward to the pediment and relieves the monotony of the rusticated clapboard. The design of the window is derived from British pattern books, and while one might imagine it illuminating a grand space, it actually opens onto Martha Washington's sweet meat closet, an architectural afterthought on the 3rd floor. So here is the weather vane. While presiding over the Constitutional Convention during the summer of 1787, George Washington commissioned master builder Joseph Rackstraw to construct this weather vane for Mount Vernon's cupola. Washington determined that the ornament dove a peace sign and instructed his nephew George Augustine Washington to paint the bill of the bird black and the olive branch in its mouth green. Drawing on classic iconography, Washington's weather vane symbolized his hope for domestic peace as he and the delegates in Philadelphia charted the course of the new nation. So, I think that we have looked at all of those. So let's go inside to the central passage. The central passage is the entryway into the Washington home, the place where visitors who pulled into the drive in front of the house were greeted. So here is the Bastille Key. The Bastille Key, the storming of the Bastille by Paris and mob, marked the beginning of the French Revolution. I'm not going to read all of this, and I'm actually going to share this with y'all on Google Classroom so y'all are able to explore on your own. The old chamber. Bedchamber accommodated some of the many visitors who stopped at Mount Vernon. Let's go back to the central passage. Here's a video about the Bastille Key. Now let's go to the dining room. There's a lot of information here in the dining room. So as you can see, I'm going to give y'all quite a bit of time to explore.
Today we're going to take a virtual.
So, we are going to learn about the enslaved people at Mount Vernon.
On this page, we're going to learn all about the enslaved people of Mount Vernon. So you can come down here and read all about the enslaved people. You can read about their biographies, so about their life, the food they ate, where they lived, their family life. Then you can go over here and read about the enslaved labor, Washington and slavery, the database of Mount Vernon's enslaved community, and the slave memorial at Mount Vernon. Have fun exploring.
So like I said, I'm going to share this link with y'all as well. So, just as the person above said, you can learn about all of the people that were enslaved at George Washington's property. So these are some of the names of the enslaved people. It tells what they did and gives you a little bit of information about them. You can also see some of the food that they ate, where they stayed, their family life. And just as the woman in the video said, you can also click over here. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to explore that as well. And after you have finished exploring the mansion and learning about the enslaved people, you are going to go into Google Classroom and you're going to answer this question. Tell me one fact that you learned about Mount Vernon. So there are some sentence stems right here. I hope that y'all have a good day, and I will talk to you later.